How's everybody doing? We're going to start in just a moment, but I wanted to come on actually a minute early to talk to you um, because I've got something I've been wanting to share with you. When you're watching the news, which I do, you don't have to. I'll keep you informed if it's important. But when you're watching the news, uh, you know what you're ingesting into your mind. You put food into your body, but you also put ideas into your mind on an ongoing basis. And what we focus on is very important. So, one of the benefits I think of this program is that you're going to be able to keep abreast of the news without being weighed down with all the heaviness of the news. And let me give you a little example of what I mean by that. I've been watching a very popular news show, among others. I spent a couple hours. I'm kind of a news junkie, trying to get together the news for myself, but also for this show. So, one of the shows that I watch, I almost can't even watch it anymore. And it's not, I'm not going to name them. It's not like they're not trying like or lying to you directly like a CNN or an MSNBC or something like that. But they're actually, I think, trying to do a good job covering the news. But look at what the sampling is. This is just one show. I'm going to walk through this with you quickly. So there's a terrorist stabbing at a synagogue. Then there's a collision with a video of the collision, and then there's a government shutdown, which is kind of bad news, right? And then there's a drug conflict with cartels and terrorists, and you see the violence. And then there's a teen charged at hit and run. You see the wrecked car and the carnage. And then there's ICE violence. You see the police fighting with the people. And then there's a hotel exploded, and you see ins- the explosion. And then there's a car crash, and you see the car wrecked. And then there's a outbreak of a bio uh, outbreak on a cruise ship. And then there's a Taylor Swift album release announcement. And none of those are good for your health, for your mental health. And I'm being funny on the last one, of course, but you don't want to ingest all that into your mind if you can help it. Especially, the problem is a lot of people watch their news first thing in the morning, right? And then they watch their news at the end of the day. And there's a circadian rhythm that goes on in your mind in the first minute of the day. I got to get started here in a moment, but that's a really important moment in your mind, the first 30 to 60 minutes in the morning time. At least try not to watch the news unless it's mine or some other uplifting news, because these things can weigh you down. I'm not even going to watch that anymore. Um, I'll find something else. It's too much death and destruction. What we're going to do here is we're always going to do the good news. And speaking of that, to give them credit, they did have a little story about a woman that was selling peanuts for 50 years at a ballpark. And that was a really cool story. But, that's what they do. They give you 12 kind of carnage and burn, car crash, murder, rape stories. And then they give you, one feel good, and you get addicted to that. But I'm here to tell you all that other bad news isn't really good for your brain. Well, let's get started. Put a 1 in the comments if you can hear me, and let's get the show up and running here. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay, because it's 5 o'clock somewhere. All right, let's begin. Joe Palaio here. Welcome to the Top 5 News, where we bring you 5 stories in the news. 5 o'clock Eastern. I'm Joe Palaio, your host, bringing you the top 5 stories of the day and a little takeaway. No nonsense take you can count on. And you can also count on our recruiting company, Joseph Michaels International. If you need to reach me, I've been in the recruiting business for 30 years. And you can reach me or any of the recruiters here at Joseph Michaels. You can reach us online or call the 800 number, 800-786-1099. And if you're looking for a job, you can apply directly for about 1,400 jobs on our website. That's thejosephmichaels.com. Check us out, and let's dive into the news. Today's 5 stories. Story number 1 today is Jane Goodall, the inspirational legacy, starting out with a somber but yet inspiring bit of news. The primatologist and conservationist Jane Goodall passed away, 91, and She had her groundbreaking work with the chimpanzees. If you've been alive for more than 40 years, you saw some of her work on television, and she basically lived with the chimpanzees for 60 years, really. Good old compassion, courage, and belief in humanity. She believed that humanity had good potential, and that the planet um, could protect the animals and learn from the animals. And in her interview recently, she was reflecting on the attitudes of how things had changed over time. She said that because back in those days, scientific attitudes towards animals was so reductionist that you had where humans had personalities and minds and emotions, but that the animals were not sentient beings at all. And she said you didn't have to have, they said you didn't have to have empathy with them. And she said, quote, well, I didn't have any of that. That was from her NPR interview. She said uh, that the animals had feelings and all that. Anyway, her legacy will live on. She challenges us to live and follow our passions. And get this, she died on a speaking tour, age 91. Age 91. You gonna still be speaking when you're 91 on the speaking tour? That's impressive. Rest in peace, Jane. Story 2 tonight, the Senate showdown continues. Day 6 of the government shutdown. Washington still gridlocked. 5:30 though tonight, there's a vote. The Senate will vote on 2 different bills, one from the Dems and one from the Republicans. And don't hold your breath. This is a negotiating process. They both could very well fail, but we'll get through this. These measures have caused 750,000 furloughs and forcing delayed payments, other disruptions that will worsen if this impasse drags on. Stay tuned to the mess. I'll update you tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have a breakthrough. I shouldn't be so negative, but we'll see how that vote goes tonight, coming up about 20 minutes. Story 3 today, banking behemoth making news in finance. First Third Bank, it's one of the larger banks, is snapping up Comerica Bank for $10.9 billion. The deal signals a new wave of bank consolidation. There's another one in the works, but it's not official yet, so I'm not going to tell you about it. But it seems that some of the mega banks are merging and buying other banks. Good to know. It's always good to follow the money. What does it mean for customers and competition? We'll be following the story and see how it shakes out for the industry. Story 4 today, political rhetoric turned violent. A Democrat consultant on the Maria Bartiromo show sounding the alarm today. The left's obsession with labeling opponents as Nazis or fascists is fueling real-world violence. The fiery take argues that heated political rhetoric is no longer just talk, it's sparking dangerous consequences. Agree? Disagree? Let's have a conversation. It's one we can't ignore. Story 5 today, Steak and Shake, the massive, Steak and Shake, the restaurant chain, is installing massive flags at all of their locations in a double down on patriotism. And they've announced that they're going to install the tallest, largest American flags that the government will allow in their local markets at every location nationwide. And the burger chain says it's all about supporting American values and traditions, and the installations have already begun. And many fans are cheering the bold move. Even Elon Musk gave it a shout out. Critics call it pandering, question the timing. In a divided world, is it a unifying symbol or is it just marketing? You decide. But for me in my house, this would actually look pretty good in your office. Do you have one yet? Next year we'll have the 1776 250-year celebration. So you probably start seeing American flags everywhere, and that would probably be a good thing, don't you think? Before we wrap, here's a quote from Tony Robbins. Our focus controls our life, but most of us don't control our focus. Let that sink in. And whether you're chasing your dream or building a business, it's all about showing up and staying focused. Well, that's the news today, folks. Jane Goodall, Animal Instinct, Inspirational Legacy, Senate Showdown, Shutdown, Banking Consolidation, Nazi Labels, Not Popular, Steak and Shake, Waving American Flags. And for today's encouraging word, we turn to the late Zig Ziglar, who said, you can have anything you want in life if you will just help enough other people get what they want. See you tomorrow, friend, 5 p.m. Eastern. Good day.